You're listening to Sweep the League.
Hey, this is George Iceman Gervin, and you're listening to Sweep the League Radio.
What is up, everybody? Sweep the League here, Rudy Campos Jr. We are live on a very special day. We'll get into that here. As you can tell, I'm wearing my UTSA polo. There's a reason why, so we're going to shout out a congratulations to our very own Derek Gervin. If you haven't heard the news, Derek did make the UTSA Hall of Fame. This is the second year they're actually inducting people into the Hall of Fame. So congratulations to Derek Gervin. Shout out to you, man. We're going to get into that a little bit later on in the show. NBA Finals are tonight. NHL Stanley Cup is tomorrow. So do the series end? That's going to be the hot topic today. Will the series end tonight and tomorrow? Or could we possibly see an extended to Game 5 for both series? Tar Heels, St. Louis. Yes. What's up, Tim Gonzalez? How you doing? Did you hear Coleman Hawkins got a $2 million? I did see that Coleman Hawkins got a $2 million to play for Kansas State. Massive deal for Coleman Hawkins. It's, the NIL changed a lot. It changed a lot. It's good and bad. And I'll get, we'll bring up the NIL here in just a little bit. Good comment, Tim. We'll get here in a second. Congratulations, Derek Gervin. Yes, congratulations to Derek Gervin. We're going to get into that as well. But hey, this is Friday, so we're giving away something here. Tim Gonzalez is actually a winner from last week, along with Mario Cavazos. Only way to win is you got to subscribe to Sweep the League on YouTube, hit the notification, but also be a part of the conversation with us. Drop those comments in the comment box. We're going to pick some lucky random listener to be our winner here tonight on Sweep the League. Again, this is the pre-show for the finals, and get y'all guys ready for the weekend. So definitely we're going to talk NBA Finals right now. So the big news coming out of the NBA Finals right now is not the fact that Boston is up 3-0. It's that Kristaps Porzingis is actually available for tonight's game. Should he play? That's a question. And I actually saw it just right before I went to start the show. I saw Derek Gervin post, should Kristaps Porzingis play? Boston was moving the ball a lot better without him, moving the ball around a lot better without him playing. And that's not a knock to Kristaps. I mean, the guy's been putting up basically final MVP numbers. He's been one of the reasons why Boston is in the position that he is. So does it help Boston if he plays? I think it doesn't hurt anything. Again, he was probably your best rim protector. He was making it very tough for Dallas when they were in the paint. And I have no problems with Porzingis playing. My biggest fear is that with that kind of injury, is he going to get injured quicker? Is it going to be a lingering injury? Could it possibly be a career-long lingering injury? We really don't know. I know it's a severe injury, but for me, if I'm thinking about it, I'm probably not playing Porzingis. If I am, it's in desperation mode. And that's not the game. This isn't the game for desperation mode. You're up 3-0, and I get it. Game 4 is a hard game to close out. Very hard game to close out. But you were able to handle the Dallas barrage in Game 3 without Kristaps. I think you'll be fine without him in this game. But since he's available, it's kind of an emergency type use. I wouldn't expect him to play a whole lot in this game. I think Boston, truth be told, I think Boston ends up sweeping the Mavericks. I think it is a sweep tonight. Obviously, we all know no team has ever come back in the NBA Finals. Well, no team's ever come back from NBA Finals when the other team's up 3-0. So definitely think it ends tonight. If it doesn't, it's going to end in Game 5. I can't see Dallas winning more than – I don't think they're going to win more than a game. I don't think they win 2 in a row to get it to Game 6. So truthfully, I have a good feeling that it does end tonight in Dallas. Boston will end up sweeping the Mavericks, and then you go on a massive run because they went 16-2 in the playoffs. So that's the reason why I made comment the other day, and I made a point the other day when I did say the Boston all the Boston negativity from fans or from people that watch the NBA who said Boston had a very easy path to the finals, that's terribly wrong, to be honest with you, because it's not their fault Donovan Mitchell got hurt. You know, Jimmy Butler injury. You saw Jared Allen be injured. Tyrese Halliburton got injured. It's not Boston's fault that those guys got injured. I mean, you can never, ever, blame the path to a finals on injuries on the other team. It just can't happen like that. Can you call it luck? Maybe you can call it luck. It's possible you can call it luck, but either way, you're never going to apologize for winning. And that's what I've said 100 times. You don't apologize for winning. If you win, you win. And that's the way I look at it. Boston, they're winning, and take out the playoffs. Forget the playoffs. They've been doing that in the regular season. All along, they've been doing that in the regular season. They were the best team in the NBA. They were the best team in the NBA for a reason. They had a legitimate starting five. And I'll get into the starting five in here in a minute, but they had a legitimate starting five. They had a really good bench. Obviously, Joe Mazzulla is doing a fantastic job. Brad Stevens made all the right moves. They were the best team in the NBA. And listening to SiriusXM and hearing Antonio Daniels, he made a good point. He said, the team that wins the NBA title necessarily isn't always the best team in the league. Did I think Boston was the best team in the league? I had them winning the title at the beginning of the year, but I still felt Denver overall was the best team in the league. So without a bench this year, Denver struggled. It showed mightily. They missed the bench guys that they ended up losing in the offseason. But Boston was the best team in the league during the season. So, I feel like when you look at their starting five, when's the last time you saw a starting five that could literally play both ends of the floor? And, talking to Derek about it, I told him, I said, for me, I haven't seen a team like this since the Detroit Pistons with Rasheed Wallace and Ben Wallace, Tayshaun Prince, Rip Hamilton, Chauncey Billups. That was their starting five. All five of those guys were massively good defenders. They were all good defenders. Now, Ben Wallace was the only probably crutch when it came to the offensive side of the ball. But, I mean, Rasheed Wallace, Tayshaun Prince, he could shoot it from deep, and he can get to the basket. Rip Hamilton was a scorer. Chauncey Billups was, he was a God-gifted leader for that team. I mean, he had great leadership. He could score the ball. He made the right passes. He made that team go. This Boston team reminds me a lot of that Detroit team. The Detroit team that handled the LA Lakers with Kobe, with Shaq, with Karl Malone, with Gary Payton. They handled that team pretty convincingly. Same team that played against the Spurs and made it very tough on the Spurs. That was probably, out of all the Spurs title runs, that was the one I was probably the most worried about. Because, if Robert Horry doesn't hit that shot, you're probably celebrating a Detroit title that year. So those Piston teams were massively, massively good. There was a debate about who would be the Finals MVP, Brown or Tatum. I would love Gio and Derek would have been in the topic of last year's Finals MVP. So, yeah, I can pretty much say for me, it's been Drew Holiday. If I'm deep down inside, I'm thinking I like Drew Holiday as Finals MVP. But if we're going Brown or Tatum, I almost lean a little bit towards Jaylen Brown when it comes to those two guys as possibly MVPs of the NBA Finals. Those are my only two options. I've got Jaylen Brown. I've got Drew Holiday. And if we see a massive game tonight from Drew Holiday, I could definitely see him getting an NBA Finals trophy as an MVP. So it's interesting to see which guys show up tonight for the Boston Celtics. I really feel it's going to end tonight. But again, going back to the comment that I was making, or the point that I was making a minute ago, this Boston Celtics team reminds me a lot of that Detroit Pistons team. The the ones that were massively good defenders, and they could score the ball. I mean, they weren't putting up 100-plus points, but they were beating you on both ends of the court. In the bad game of basketball, the team with the most points at the end wins, but they were also there to stop you too. So 84 points, 85 points a game, that was enough back then to do it. So that's when I'm talking about with this Boston team, the way I compare them to the Detroit Pistons of those Detroit Piston teams. It seems very, very similar, very, very similar. So I think it does end tonight. If it doesn't, it goes game 5. We're definitely looking at a Boston win in game 5. So that's my pick for tonight. Last time I told you guys to, if you were a betting guy, a betting man, betting woman, that you wanted to take the over on Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving for 60. And they both hit for, I believe it was like 63 or 64 is what they combined. So if you took that, congratulations. For tonight, I haven't really looked at it, but I really feel that a good bet for me to take is probably Luka having a triple-double. I kind of like that bet right there. Luka Doncic on the triple-double. And I'm actually going to look at what the rebound total is. If Jason Tatum is at 9 or 9.5 rebounds, I'm probably going to take the over on that. So those are probably my two picks for tonight, which I do picks on Underdog app. So I have to look at what they've got going on there tonight. But that's my take for the NBA Finals. We've got Lord Stanley Cup as well. Get into that. As I contacted a good friend of ours, Barry Best, and asked him, hey, has there ever been a team in the Stanley Cup Finals to come back from a 3-0 deficit? What do you guys think? What do you think the answer is? It's Rudy Campos Jr. This is Sweep the League. I'll be right back. Do you want a refreshing new twist on a tea with ancient roots? Well, Special Leaf Tea is the way to go. Chris Cook, founder and chef of Special Leaf Tea, is introducing everybody to a 4,000-year-old ancient Mediterranean secret, and it is called Special Leaf Tea. Special Leaf's mission is to help people through naturally functional, ready-to-drink iced teas made with olive leaf, all natural ingredients, and no added sugar. Full of antioxidants and immune-boosting capabilities, olive leaf tea is known to help with blood pressure, hypertension, type 2 diabetes, cholesterol, weight management, and is even naturally energizing without caffeine. That's right, Special Leaf Tea, proud partners of Sweep the League, and as a drinker of Special Leaf Tea, I can attest to all of its great ingredients and better lifestyle. Special Leaf Tea, proud partners of Sweep the League.
Digital rich. Hey, this is George Iceman Gervin, and you're listening to Sweep the League Radio.
Yeah, welcome back to Sweep the League. Shout out to George Gervin for the drop there. Also, Cheryl Lynn. Follow her on Instagram. That's the official Cheryl Lynn on Instagram. Partners with Sweep the League. Also, shout out Special Leaf Tea. So going to break, we asked the question, has there ever been a team in the Stanley Cup Finals to come back from a 3-0 deficit? Talking to Barry Bass, and he told me 1942 Toronto Maple Leafs won the Stanley Cup after being down 3-0. The playoffs as a whole, including the 42 Leafs, the 75 New York Islanders, the 2010 Philadelphia Flyers, and the 2014 LA Kings. Those last 3 teams were able to come back from a 3-0 deficit in the playoffs. But the only Stanley Cup team to ever do it is the 1942 Toronto Maple Leafs. As we know, the Florida Panthers are up 3-0 on the Edmonton Oilers. And surprisingly, I figured that this series would go, 6 games. I picked Florida in 6. Surprisingly, again, I did not expect this kind of turnout for Florida when it came to the Stanley Cup, but nonetheless, we are here. It takes a lot for a team to come back 3-0. And the biggest thing that you've got to understand, and you'll hear former players talk about this all the time, whether it be NBA, whether it be, even NHL, when you're in that kind of a deficit, you have to take it one game at a time. You can't think of the next game. You can't think of, well, we've got to get to game 7. We have to get to game 7. No, it's take care of game 4. Once game 4 is done, take care of game 5, then 6. And to be honest, that's the only mindset to have. But as all sports fans know, it's tough to close out a series. Game 4 is the toughest game for any team to close out in any series. So definitely pressure on both ends. That's kind of why I feel like Boston does win tonight, because they don't want to give the Mavs any hope. But then again, it's so tough, especially in Dallas. You're playing in Dallas. It's going to be extremely tough to close out this game. But as far as Florida goes, I mean, they've looked really, really good and really, really dominant. And their goalie has just been playing lights out. So I'm gonna think on this one. I think I'm gonna take Edmonton to win game 4, and then it's gonna basically be, I would say, Florida in 5 now. Now, the more than anything, I have Florida in 6. I'm taking Florida in 5. So I think that Edmonton's going to win game 4, push it to game 5, and so I think Florida ends up taking game 5 and closing out the Stanley Cup. So, nonetheless, we won't have both NHL and NBA finals ending this weekend. We might. I mean, could happen, but I think the NBA Finals ends tonight, and I think the NHL Stanley Cup Finals goes on for another game. Shout out to Florida. Shout out to Edmonton. Shout out to Barry Best and his son Carson Best. Best Boys Podcast, the absolute best podcast for NHL. You have to check them out. They do a fantastic job. We highly recommend it. Highly recommended it. Let's get to some comments here. We got Tim Gonzalez in here as well. Will Brown and Tatum go over 30 points tonight, Rudy? If you're talking 30 points each, I don't think so. I think probably one of them is going to have below 30, in my opinion. I think one of them, if it's anything, I think Tatum may go for 30. Brown may have around 26, 27 tonight. So if you're talking about over 60, that's a tough one. They may get to 60. So that'd be like 33 for Tatum, 27 for Brown. I think they're not both going to go over 30, if that's what you're asking me on that. And happy Father's Day. Appreciate that, Tim. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. Father's Day is Sunday. So sure to take care of your dads. Again, I'll bring up all that here in just a little bit for the last part of the segment here. But yeah, as far as, game 7 go, game 4s go, it's a tough game, especially if you're up 3-0. It's very tough to close out any of these games. The closeout game is the toughest. You don't want to give the other team any type of hope, any type of a glimpse of, a chance that they could win. You don't want to do anything like that at all. You want to kind of just close it out and get it over with, be done with it. It's kind of why I think that Boston's going to come into town like that. I hope Florida does too tomorrow. It'd be nice to have both NHL and NBA finals, both of them just done with. But then again, we're into the off season. So can we keep it going a little bit longer? Everybody loves sports. I love sports. So again, I wouldn't be upset if it went to 5 games on both sides of the puck and the ball. So that's a sports weekend for y'all right here. Okay. Shout out, we're going to talk a little bit about Derek Irvin and give you a little bit of my insight here, a little bit of history on Derek for me, how Derek and I ended up becoming really good friends, and it's honoring Derek Irvin here on Sweep the League. We're not going to be here for a very long time, so we're going to make it short on a Friday here. Also, we've got to select a winner here, so we'll definitely get a winner selected. This is Sweep the League. When we come back, quick commercial break. When we come back, Derek Irvin talk. Congratulations to Derek Irvin, obviously from everybody here at Sweep the League. Living in South Texas, we know tacos are king, especially in the San Antonio and surrounding areas. So if you want the best, then go get the best. La Cocina Taco Truck, located at 283 West San Antonio Street, New Braunfels, Texas, where Louie and his staff are cooking up the most amazing and greatest street tacos you can ever imagine. There is no order too big or too small for Louie and his staff to get going and get ready for you. La Cocina Taco Truck, again, 283 West San Antonio Street, New Braunfels, Texas. They are open Thursday through Sunday evenings. And again, if you want the best, you've got to go to the best. That's La Cocina Taco Truck, partners of Sweep the League. MCS General Contracting is here to make life easy for you. Rudy Campos Jr. for Sweep the League, coming to you for MCS General Contracting. Chris Leha and the boys are out to provide the absolute best service and quality work. Whether it's that perfect patio in the backyard or possibly the front yard, or you need that durable driveway, well, you know it's hot in San Antonio majority of the time, so what about that long-awaited swimming pool you've been wanting to get? Contact the boys over at MCS General Contracting. They will take care of everything that you need, and I guarantee you they are the best in the business. MCS General Contracting, partners of Sweep the League.
Hi, it's Sherilyn, and you're watching Sweep the League. Subscribe and share.
Rudy Campos Jr. here from Sweep the League. Hey, make sure you go and follow Sherilyn on Instagram. Just search official Sherilyn on Instagram. All right, so our spotlight segment tonight is going to be spotlight focused everything on Derek Gervin, newly inducted. He will be inducted this October over at the UTSA Hall of Fame. Now, for those of y'all that do know the background on Derek and UTSA, you know, this is a story that everybody, you know, that does know about it, knows about it. Those that don't, basically, he was the first superstar at UTSA. And, you know, his brother, everybody knows his brother George, Spurs legend. Derek created a niche for himself at UTSA, and he became the first superstar there. Drafted by, I believe it was Philadelphia, but he played for the Nets. But, you know, as we know, Derek had a good run with the NBA, a really good run in the NBA. For a couple of years there, he was there. But where he made it known was overseas. And that's where the majority of Derek's, you know, success was overseas, scoring titles and all. So I'm going to bring in Gio right now, who's joining us now, and we'll get more on Derek, but I'll give you the backstory on Derek Gervin and myself as well here. But again, shout out to Derek Gervin. Gio, what's up, man?
Rudy, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you good. You paid the bill, I see.
Yeah, you know, I've been working a lot of overtime, so I've finally been able to to pay that bill. But welcome everyone. Sorry I'm a little bit late, but
you're fine. We talked NBA Finals and NHL Stanley Cup, but right now we're on a spotlight right now. I'll get your finals in a minute, but we're spotlighting, of course, Derek Gervin, our very own Derek Gervin, man. And you know, he's going to be inducted into the UTSA Hall of Fame. And I mean, it's crazy to think that my story behind Derek is I was on a radio show called The Sports Time at 9:30 a.m. And before that even happened, one of our producers, Shamai Reed, was like, you know, hey, I know Derek Gervin. He's a great guy. We used to do a show with him. You know, cool. So, and I remember Derek because I had the old Upper Deck basketball cards and the Skybox card that he was on, stuff like that. So I'm like, cool. Hey, you know, that'd be awesome to have him on. And then I was on the Sports Dime for 9:30 a.m. We were able to get Derek in studio. And ever since that day, man, we're talking a few years, we became friends. And then we became like best friends. Like I'll talk to him 3 times a week, almost 4 times a week. So sometimes twice in a day. So really great guy, really deserving guy, Gio, and can't really say much more than overall, hey man, he's trying to do a lot for the kids. Congratulations, Derek Irvin, on the Hall of Fame right there.
No, congrats. I saw it earlier, and I also was talking to you about it. Congrats to Derek. I haven't known him as long as you, Rudy, but he has been just a pleasure to work with, talk with, and so much basketball knowledge, right? You talk about people, Rudy, as I always bring up ambassadors. Derek Irvin's an ambassador, right? I mean, he's a guy that he's teaching these kids, right? Every time I see a video of him, he's at some gym or he's at some club, right? Talking about basketball, talking about to the young kids. But congrats to Derek. Definitely much deserved. I believe, Rudy, isn't he the all-time leading scorer in UTSA history?
You're going to test my UTSA knowledge on
I
this.
believe he is. I think he averaged about 22 points for a career there. He was first team all Southland as I kind of researched that a bit. But, man, there's no other person well deserving of that, and he means a lot to the city of San Antonio.
He means a whole lot to the city of San Antonio, and people, I guess, don't really realize that, how much he means to the city. He does a lot for the city of San Antonio, especially with the kids, man, with the kids.
Yeah.
He's always working with the kids. He's always wanting the kids to be, the best that they can. And you can't ask for anything more than that, man.
No, I mean, he's giving back, Rudy, right? And we talk about some of these players, and look, a lot of them make a lot of money. A lot of them don't give back. And it's one of the things that I do definitely admire is, hey, give back to the community, give back to where you played or where you grew up at. And Derek is certainly doing that. I'm telling you, I've seen a lot of stuff on him. When doing my research on him, Rudy, just a little bit, that man has been in the scene of San Antonio for a while.
Yeah, he really has. And actually, he's 4th in total points of all time.
Okay.
1,691 points. And then he's actually 2nd in points per game, which he averaged 21.1, just 1.1 point shy of being first at 22.2. So, yeah, I mean, Derek is definitely in a lot of UTSA's books. And, I mean, well-deserved, man.
Already, if not for the injuries, sure, he would have played even longer in the NBA, because I know he got hurt for a little
Back
bit.
injury?
Yeah. So Derek, I actually saw a card of Derek in the NBA. I think his time there, and I have to look back at it, but listen, Derek he could play. I mean, the guy could play. He was a walking bucket, a guy who can definitely in today's game with that effort, that hunger. Last thing I talk about, you give someone back then today's game, if you just give them, Rudy, the hunger, the determination, they're going to fit just fine. And Derek, of course, would fit fine in today's NBA.
Shot 54% from the field in his career at UTSA. Career 54% shooter. I never asked him second. Come on, man. Come on.
I'm just saying the stats. And he also has his number retired as well, Rudy, if I'm not mistaken. So he's a living legend, in a city that has a lot of people there. And he's literally been the center of that for a while. So congrats.
He's part of one of the, you can probably say he's probably one of the first families overall of San Antonio.
Yeah.
With George here. His sister is really active too, but Derek as well. I mean, G. Gervin, they've got a lot of roots here in San Antonio. So shout out to Derek, man. We're going to hopefully have him on next week, and we'll talk more Hall of Fame with Derek. What's up, Chris Leha? Appreciate you joining us in, man. Happy Father's Day to everybody out there. Father's Day is this Sunday. So Rudy wanted to get Gio's opinion on last night's topic on the new football team coming to San Antonio and why San Antonio doesn't support teams Gio's the Midwest. So he knows how big sports towns are. Give us your opinion on that.
Funny, I commented on Jeff's post yesterday about a team coming in San Antonio, and I forgot to get back on Twitter or X, and Rudy and everybody was kind of clowning me, saying, Rudy's been schooling me on the air. But
I don't know what you're talking about.
But to Tim's point here, Tim, as living in the Midwest and even some other states, San Antonio, man, it just they always get these other teams. And Rudy, I'm sure that they've had other football teams here. It's not just these last few that have been here in the last few years. But as long as Jerry Jones is in Dallas, there's no team coming to San Antonio, Rudy.
Stop. Jerry's not the reason why it's being stopped.
Well, okay, no, I'm just saying Jerry's maybe part of the reason. The other reason is I just don't think, Rudy, the market size, right? They don't have a stadium, man, right? I just don't see it.
So the stadium, I give you, and that was one of the reasons I brought up. You've got to build it, in order for them to come. And the place has to be right. It's downtown. Everything's got to be downtown.
Not necessarily, but yeah.
In our case, it does. Because you have, the AT&T Center's over here where the Spurs are playing. The Missions play way the hell over here, and then you're going to have UTSA downtown. It's all got to come together. I think that's the biggest thing is you got to have, like I said, you got to have that sports district.
Well, yeah, I guess for San Antonio's sake, it's probably the most. I mean, the Rams, they don't play in downtown, though. That's very different kind of landscape there in LA, but.
Yeah, that's a different landscape, but it's LA. I mean, LA is way bigger than San Antonio, though.
Could y'all support an NFL team, Rudy?
So that was point number 3 that I made last night was I used the Spurs as an example. During the dynasty years, it was sellout after sellout. Then when that dynasty ended, Kawhi ended up leaving. We saw attendance go down, 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 and never really picked up till Wemby came. So it's almost like the good question is what you ask. Can you support another team? It has to be consistent support. And it can't be business dollars, if that makes sense. It can't be companies buying, like I said, $2,000-$3,000 or 2,000-3,000 tickets to give away or anything like that. Because these companies are going to be the ones that have to buy the luxury suites. Those are the ones that make a lot of money. So can they support another team? Yes, but I don't know for how long. That's the question.
That's the question I have. And, you have a team in Houston, have a team, not necessarily in Dallas, but they play in that Fort Worth area. So another team, Rudy, I don't know. And there's so many fans of Cowboys, right? Is there space, Rudy, for another team in Texas? As you already have a big landmark in Dallas, and then you obviously have Texans fans, but is there space? I mean, college is different, obviously, but you have the Texas Longhorns, right? I guess University of Houston, if you want to throw them in there, and Texas A&M. But is there space
for another NFL team?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, you've got
fan base.
Yeah, I mean, because you've got the Chargers, you've got the Niners. I mean, who else do we have? I mean, basically Vegas is down the street as well.
But Rudy, I think the difference is this is a brand new, it's not like Jacksonville, right, is moving to San Antonio. You can always kind of bring those fans with you. This is a brand new flat out team. And sure, you have teams in other cities, but I don't know, Rudy. I don't.
What is, okay.
There's too many Cowboy fans.
Well, okay. Again, the Cowboy fans, it's kind of like the same thing because it's kind of hard to put it because I get what you're saying. There's too many Cowboy fans. There's too many fans that have been Cowboy fans forever. Will they switch their fandom?
That's what I'm saying. If you have a ton of people in San Antonio who are Dallas fans, I'm pretty sure, Rudy, what do you think the ratio is to Dallas to Texan fans in San Antonio? I mean, I can only imagine
10 to 15 to 20 for every 1 or 2.
So
maybe?
I don't know. The Rams, as everyone knows, they were in St. Louis. They moved to LA. We've struggled, right? A lot of people go to the Rams stadium and you see the opposing team. So even the Rams, though they left LA 20, 30 years ago and coming back, it's been tough. But really, I just don't know. I would love to see it for you, there's a team there. You can cover the team, but I don't know.
It can work.
Yeah.
The demographics work. I mean, you give the 3 biggest cities in Texas, and I mean, Austin's big, but Austin's more tech big and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But again, you've got the Fort Worth Dallas connection. Dallas plays in Arlington, so it's basically midway. So to give a team to San Antonio ever makes a lot of sense because it's technically Austin, San Antonio. You're going to get a lot of fans from Austin coming down. But to say that it can't be supported, it can be supported. The city will welcome it with open arms. There's no doubt about it. But it's for how long will the team survive with minimal success?
To me, a team needs to move there. That to me makes the most sense, Rudy. Jacksonville, they did a few weeks ago had that proposed pictures of their new stadium. I don't know what's going to happen there. The Bears, there's been some rumors they may go to the suburbs. The city doesn't want to pay. The Bears aren't going anywhere. I don't see another team leaving its roots after we saw the Raiders, which have flirted around San Antonio for a long time, but end up moving to Vegas. Rudy, I don't think we're in our lifetime. I don't think we're going to see an NFL football team in San Antonio. I'm just being real. But there are going to get a lot of XFL, UXFL, AFL, TFL, whatever FL is coming. San Antonio is going to be kind of a hotbed for that. But an actual NFL team, I don't see at least anytime soon.
And, the other part, too, is, and I think people may have mistaken my words when I say that a lot of it has to go through Spurs, sports and entertainment. And they are the number 1 players in town. Now, do they necessarily block everything that happens in San Antonio sport-wise? Not necessarily, but they have their hand in it. So if it is backed, and this is what I said last night, if it's backed by Spurs Sports and Entertainment, then it's a legit thing, that it's more than likely going to happen. So not so much Jerry is who I've ever said is taking, the reason why there's no team in San Antonio. It's the Spurs. The Spurs, they have to be behind it. And if they're behind it and they are supporting it, then there's real traction. That's real traction there, because now you've got the support of another major player in San Antonio. And then people say, well, they don't have enough business dollars. They don't have enough corporate Fortune 500. Buffalo doesn't have a whole lot of that. I mean, there's NFL cities that don't have as much as San Antonio has. But
yeah,
the biggest thing for me, when I say support, fan support, is I know for a fact, I used to live near Cincinnati. You've lived in NFL towns. The price to sit at the very top, the nosebleed sections, is still minimum $80, $90. So think about it. You're going to price fans out at that rate because San Antonio doesn't have, a whole bunch of people making a whole lot of money that can go to every single game or even afford to go to multiple games. So that's where Austin comes in. You've got to have support of both cities. And I think that's the biggest concern for me is, will the team price the fans out? I mean, dude, You're looking 2 people, you're looking at what, Gio? $160 for tickets in the nosebleed section total.
Well, I mean, the Bears, when I was there, they had one of the highest prices in the league and they weren't doing anything. They weren't winning.
Yeah.
So that just tells you now their tickets are going to go even higher now because of what they've done in the draft and free agency. But yeah, Rudy, these football, it's not cheap. I mean, you're starting to price people out of these games. In Cincinnati, I was planning on going to a night game with the Rams. Those tickets were pretty high.
Yeah.
And it's just the Cincinnati Bengals. But NFL games, the tickets are definitely going to be higher, and there's a lot that goes into that atmosphere. But I think you're right, Rudy. One thing to think about is also Austin, and also because San Antonio, Austin's pretty close by, so it makes a lot of sense to get them also involved. But like I said earlier, I just don't see in our lifetime, Rudy. Maybe your daughter may see a team in the NFL in San Antonio, but I don't see, at least not right now. I don't think the Jags are leaving Jacksonville. So, and the NFL expansion, it looks like it's probably potentially could be overseas, Rudy.
I don't get that at all.
I'm not a big fan of that.
That's more problems than it's worth.
I think having a team in Germany or wherever they have it at, it's going to make traveling ridiculous.
Because say you have the Sunday game there, obviously the time is different because kickoff there is 9 a.m. our time, roughly. Yeah. I'm talking about San Antonio time. That's about 9 a.m. So,
it is.
Yeah. So then you're done with that game. You have to travel back. You'll probably get back in on a Monday, if anything, or travel days are Monday.
I don't see it. The only international to me that I could see it, maybe Canada, Toronto, right? You already have the Bills there, which is not too far from Canada. So that really, I think in Canada, a Toronto team, okay, I could definitely see where that makes sense. Maybe Vancouver, which did have a professional NBA team, but expansion to me doesn't make sense. A lot of people are calling for it, and I just don't understand why. Why do we need a team in Europe? I get we had NFL Europe a long time ago. I think Kurt Warner played in there. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah. Toronto, Mexico is an interesting. I know there was supposed to be a game in Mexico last year already, but the field was terrible. They couldn't have the game there, so
there's a game this year. I think in Brazil that they were talking about the Packers. And I can't remember the other team, but they're not supposed to. They were telling them not wearing green or some BS.
And actually, the game I was thinking about, Rudy, that was supposed to be in Mexico was the Rams and Chiefs game. That historic Monday Night Football game was supposed to be in Mexico, but I believe the field is just absolutely terrible. So it ended up being an LA game. But yeah, I don't get that. I've never understood. I'm fine with the NFL expanding, and it would be nice to see. So, Rudy, what city do you think? An NFL team, obviously besides San Antonio, where would you like to see the NFL expand here in the States? If you had to pick one city.
Oh my God, man. If I had to pick one city, it's really, what city would be out there? Everything's kind of already covered when it comes to, logistics. You've got the Midwest, you've got the South, you've got the East, West. Northeast is loaded. Northwest is loaded. We're not sending a team to Wyoming, Billings, Montana. We're not sending anybody up there, obviously. But what team do you think deserves it?
Portland could be interesting, right? Now, you obviously have the Seahawks who basically have owned
exactly. So it makes no sense.
And I don't think the Seahawks would be thrilled. How about St. Louis, Rudy? That's another sports town that obviously lost their NFL team. I could definitely see football back in St. Louis again. I know obviously the Chargers have left. Oklahoma City, Rudy, I'll say this.
That was my first thought.
Oklahoma City, they do really well in the NBA. Their fans, I remember back in the day with Kevin Durant and Westbrook, that was one of the loudest arenas in the NBA. So that's a city that I could definitely see potentially having there. But St. Louis, I heard someone say Sacramento and Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake City is interesting.
Utah is an interesting place. They just got their hockey team, right? They moved from Phoenix. So they're going to start up there. I don't know about Utah. I have some...
It's interesting. It's an interesting thought.
It's definitely an interesting city. Don't know if that makes a whole lot of sense. But, Rudy, they do have BYU. And look, Utah Utes, Rudy, it's a big – they're big in college football in Utah.
The football programs are good there.
Yeah.
And it's an idea. It is an idea.
It's definitely an idea. So I could definitely see that San Diego already lost their team. And I don't know if that makes a whole lot of sense. But, Rudy, Austin, San Antonio – I just don't love this narrative of let's go overseas and let's get an NFL team. Why? I don't think it makes sense.
I don't like that idea at all. Christopher Leahausen here is like, Kansas City, where does that money come from? Kansas City, again, another city that doesn't have a whole lot of corporate.
Well, Rudy, you saw that they wanted the citizens to pay for the new stadium, and they voted, no, we're not funding this. You're rich. How about you go get some people to help pay for this? So the Chiefs, I think they definitely would like a new stadium or potentially kind of do that. But
relocation to San Antonio.
Rudy, if the Chiefs Kingdom went to San Antonio, y'all gonna have a lot of money. The San Antonio Chiefs.
That would be pretty amazing, man. They have mentioned that they would send a team to play 2 to 3 games over there and then have them bye week when they come back. And that's the other. I did see that, but I mean, you're sending a team or two over there to play a couple of games. It's still, for me, it still doesn't make sense for them to do that, even though they mentioned it. It still doesn't make sense to do that, man. I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of in limbo when it comes to Europe. I get why you want to do it. It's the same reason why Adam Silver is talking about a team overseas as well for the NBA. I think they might be looking at China as a potential NBA franchise. I mean, NBA is even harder because you have more games frequently than you do NFL.
You do, but really, I think we can agree Seattle is going to be the next. I can almost
expansion for NBA. Yeah.
I can't see anyone else. At least first would be Seattle. Obviously, Las Vegas, Rudy. They've put a bunch of money there. The Oakland A's, Rudy, the last team in Oakland, which is kind of crazy to think. They're moving to Las Vegas. They're going to play in Sacramento, I think, either next season or the season after that for that. But I think Seattle, Las Vegas, Rudy, maybe Vancouver, you can try that experiment out again. Obviously, it didn't work the first time. I did like their jerseys, though. It was very interesting. A very interesting color. Maybe Kansas City had a team once in the NBA, but Seattle, that is the number one team. Get them that green back. I can't wait. That could be a moment where I actually maybe go to a game. Now the tickets probably be very expensive the first.
Is it wrong to admit that Seattle was one of my in the closet teams that I liked watching and cheering for? I mean,
no, they had. Listen, those teams were talented. They had Sean Kemp, Gary Payton, Detlef Schrempf. They also won, I think, they won an NBA championship with Lenny Wilkins. I mean, just
1979.
Jack Sigma. I mean, so many all-time. And the fact that they couldn't get a deal done, they go to Oklahoma City, and Kevin Durant, Rudy, could have been with that Seattle crowd. Just imagine rocking over there in Seattle and watching a game there. But that's the team. They need to get all their stuff back from Oklahoma City. They don't own that. I'm sorry. Get your stuff back. Get your history back. And I got to think within the next decade, they should be back within the next decade. I can almost – it should be at least the next 5 years, hopefully. And Seattle's already geared up to build a basketball arena anyway, so.
Yeah, it needs to go back. The Sonics need to come back, man. And not only, Peyton and Sean Kemp, like you mentioned, Detlef Schrempf, but even the newer generation. I was a fan of Desmond Mason. I mean, his slam dunk contests were, they were good. Rashard Lewis was another guy that I liked watching play. I mean, he had a pretty good career in the NBA. The Sonics, man. I mean, the Sonics were one of those teams where I enjoyed watching, when they were playing. And then you saw them against the Bulls in the finals. And, man, Sean Kemp he finished second in MVP voting. Even though the Bulls won, I mean, that's how good Sean played in that final.
Sean at the height was, he was the top 5 forward in the league. And, he battled Dennis Rodman for those games. Sean was an unbelievable player. Unfortunately, Rudy, though, I think the lockout kind of messed with him a bit. And he was just never the same. He did make an all-star team with the Cavs, which was also very impressive. But after that, man, Sean, at the height, that city was rocking. And that city, it was to me, it was a basketball city, Rudy. When you thought of the Sonics back then, you thought of basketball, And then football and baseball is probably baseball right there with obviously Ken Griffey era and Edgar Martinez and all those guys there. And then obviously now it's a football city. Like now it's predominantly football, and baseball has improved obviously within the last 5 or 6 years. But if basketball comes back, I can only imagine what he can do.
I think, thinking of Seattle sports, like the Seahawks were third on my list, even though, man, I'm going to outdate myself here and make myself look old. One of my favorite wide receivers watching growing up was Steve Largent. And I mean, if anybody that doesn't know Steve Largent, go do the research, go look him up on YouTube, because this guy was a really good wide receiver.
He was a great receiver. They had Cortez Kennedy, defensive tackle, former, I believe, defensive player of the year. I mean, they had
Sean Alexander was there for a while.
Hasselbeck. Jerry Rice, Rudy. Jerry Rice played for the Seahawks.
Jerry Rice did play for the Seahawks.
He played for the Seahawks, and it's one of those odd memories that you look back and you think, man, like Jerry Rice
played for the Raiders too, didn't he?
He played. He got to a Super Bowl, and unfortunately, Rich Gannon, and the Raiders just yeah. But yeah, no, it's they've had some great players, and obviously they got that new stadium in I think it was 2003 or something. So yeah, it's a lot of tradition. Football has basically owned the last decade and a half, right, Rudy? It's been predominantly, they've won 2 Super Bowls, went to one. So yeah, it's a good sports town.
Yeah, Aleja's in here saying if Vegas and Seattle get a team, how does that affect rosters of draft? So basically, the way it works normally, but it could have changed, was every current NBA team has to keep so many players. I think it's probably like 10 or 11 players on their roster. Everybody else goes into a pool, which is an expansion draft. That's how that works, is it's an expansion draft. So there's really no, like, if they were to have a team next year, the 2024 draft is set, but they would have an expansion draft of current NBA rosters. So for the Spurs, they say, you know what, we're not going to keep Zach Collins, Devontae Graham, and whoever, Malachi Branham, just throwing names out there. Those 3 guys go into a pool, so Vegas and Seattle can draft any of those guys in that pool. I think it's like 12 picks or 15 picks or something. So they can draft whoever is in that pool. That's how the expansion draft normally works.
And also, I think there'll probably be some changing of teams. I heard from one podcaster who said, if that does happen, you have Seattle or you have Vegas, that the Minnesota Timberwolves would move to the Eastern Conference, which I found interesting because the Bulls are in the East, right? The Pacers are in the East. Logical that the Timberwolves would probably move from the West to the East. Seattle would, I believe, go back to the Pacific Division.
Well, see, both Vegas and Seattle would move west, but from what I'm understanding, it would be Minnesota and Memphis.
Yeah,
go to the Eastern Conference.
Rudy, I wouldn't care if the Spurs went to the East.
Why? The easy path? Come on, man. It's not that easy.
You get Wemby on the East, Rudy. That's
all-star teams every year. Well, is it? Because Joel Embiid's there, the East. Yeah, I guess so. There's really nobody else. Jokic is in the West. Anthony Davis would be in the West. Karl-Anthony Towns, if they stay in the West, he's in the West. Yeah, I guess so. It makes a little bit more. It makes more sense. That's probably what I would think. Sorry to get off topic, Rudy. I just wanted to ask your opinion from the topic from last time. Oh no, you can ask whatever you want, man. This is y'all show by the people for the people. We're going to talk football, talk NFL. Pelicans move to the East. I don't think so. Pelicans are kind of more, they're closer to Houston, and all that. So I think they stay in the West. It's that line coming, right down Minnesota, and then you've got Memphis to the right of that. So that's where I think those 2 teams are going to go out East if you end up getting a team in Vegas and Seattle. But nonetheless, man, expansion is coming up here. I think within the next couple of years, we're going to probably see a couple of teams announced.
Well, also baseball, Rudy. That's probably they've been talking about it pretty heavy, and we could see Carolina get a team. Montreal obviously has always been talked about. Portland getting a MLB team. So,
Expos, man, the Expos, man, to get the Montreal Expos back. Why am I outdated? I mean, Vladimir Guerrero is one of the more popular ones. Pedro Martinez, I believe, was an Expo, if I'm not mistaken. Randy Johnson was a rookie for the Expos. Andre Dawkins an Expo? I think he was Andre Dawkins, if I'm not mistaken. Montreal's had a bunch.
Yes.
Yeah, he was, right? The Hawk. Okay, so
didn't they have Dennis Martinez?
Dennis Martinez was another one, I believe.
Yeah.
Montreal's had a really good baseball squads. Man, baseball back in the day, Joe. We got to get Austin back on here because just a whole show full of baseball.
Weren't they before the strike in the 90s? I think there was one year where they were actually really, really good and potentially could make a run. But I think they had that strike season in baseball. I think Canada could support another baseball team. I mean, the Blue Jays, they have a pretty big fan base. So I wouldn't, counteract that, maybe having another team there. But yeah, so many expansions. I can't wait to see what happens.
Man, I'm looking at a lot of stuff here, man, and yeah, it's crazy. Montreal had a bunch of stuff here. So, no, listen, man, we got finals coming up here in about 20 minutes. Give me your prediction, man, before we go. What do you think? Is it going to end tonight for Dallas, or will we see Game 5?
Well, I called the refs and said, hey, can we let Dallas at least get one win? So I'm going with Dallas tonight. The series is over. I mean, it's basically over unless Dallas, they went to go call the 2003 Boston Red Sox and say, hey, how'd you do it? That's the only way. I think Dallas will win tonight. I have literally zero confidence in that, Rudy, but I'm going to go on a limb and say Dallas shakes up and wins and maybe makes it a series, but don't have very much faith. And if I don't get to say it, congratulations to the Boston Celtics. You are the NBA champions.
You just jinxed them tonight. Now we're going to have another game. So appreciate that, man. Thanks for the jinx. But anyway, man, it is the weekend. Happy Father's Day to everybody out there on Sunday. It's a hard day for me with my dad, being passed away going on. I believe it's going to be, he passed away in 2018. So it'll be 6 years this year. But still, man, if you have your dads in your life, give them a big old hug. Wish them a happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there as well. We'll see you guys on Monday again. Shout out to Derek Irvin. Congratulations on the Hall of Fame for Coach Gio. It is Rudy Campos Jr. This was Sweep the League. We will see you guys on Monday.